Okay, so we're picking up where the last video left off. This is the second video about making a Bootstrap website. So what we're going to do, we've put in a container, we put in a row, and we put in another div in there which holds this image, which is a responsive image, so it resizes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the bottom of the web page, find the div tag at the very bottom, and that of course will be the closing div tag for the container. And if we want, we can click on that and hit our space bar over a couple times to line it up with the container div. We're going to click at the end of the line above that and hit our return button a few times, our enter button, to make some space, and now we'll be able to drop in a new row here where we can put our navigation bar. So we're going to click on the insert button here, click to insert a grid row with column. Let's make it just one column wide because the navigation bar is going to go all the way across the top. And we'll insert that nav bar in there just like we did this image. Inside this row there will be the grid row, which will be down here. Then there will be another div inside of that which will hold the nav bar. Now the nav bar has a ton of components to it. It's got drop down menus and a search box and links on the right and the left, and a little brand. It's got a branding section where you could put like a logo or something like that, but we're gonna hack out all that stuff so that we just have our a couple links in there. Okay, so we're inserting this row with the columns, and I have to apologize for my computer here. It's a laptop and it's going a little slow. We're getting the little spinning pinwheel of death occasionally. So that'll be a sign whenever we see that to just meditate and breathe lightly, or actually strongly if you want, while we're waiting for the pinwheel of death. Okay, so there we go. It inserts the row and the second div inside of that row, which is where we're going to put our nav bar. So let's click in between this div right here and this div, which are nested inside the row. And now we'll click on our insert again. This time we'll click on the nav bar drop down and we'll choose basic nav bar. And that will get inserted in there, and that is just a whole bunch of code. We'll go ahead and do file save all so that all that code gets saved. Now, like I said, it drops in a branding section here, a couple of links. This one's called an active link because it refers to the page you're currently on and has a background color. A drop-down menu here, which will give you some drop-down choices. We have a search box here with a submit button, and then another link and another drop-down over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and just hack all this stuff out. So we'll start by clicking on this word brand over here. We'll locate the word brand down here in the code, and we'll take out this code here, the word brand plus the A tags that surround it. The A tag is a link tag, and so this is just a placeholder for whatever your brand would be. We're going to highlight that and we're going to hit delete. That's going to get rid of that. We'll leave the two links. We want to get rid of this drop down section here, so we'll scroll down below the links and see the drop down section. Now notice that this entire navigation bar is made up of something called a list. And what it is, it's called an unordered list. An unordered list is a list of items that don't have an order to them. So they can go in any order they want. An ordered list is something where you have to order things 1, 2, 3, 4. Like for example, whoever won a race, number 1 would be the winner, 2 came in second place. In this case, we just have navigation menu items, and so they're created in a list. An unordered list, which is abbreviated UL. And so you have a UL tag up at the top of the list, then an NUL tag at the bottom of the list, and then every list item has what's called an LI tag. So this means begin list item and end list item. So you can see these are all the list items. So first of all, this drop-down menu is in a larger list of the navigation bar itself, but then it has its own list of drop-down items. So in order to get rid of this whole drop-down menu, we've got to select the list item here, which is the drop-down menu. Then we've got to select the unordered list and nested list items there, which are the drop-downs themselves. And then we have to select the list item, the closed list item tag at the bottom here, which gets the whole drop-down menu everywhere from the list item to the end list item. So once you select all that, you can hit delete, and you can click up here in the top part of your window if you need to to see it refresh and see everything go away, or you can click this refresh button. The search box here is just a form, so we're going to select from begin form to end form tag and hit delete. That's going to get rid of that. Over here we have this nav bar right section, and we don't really want either of those, so we're going to go ahead and grab this link over here on the right and delete that. And then once again we have another drop down just like before. It's a list item with an unordered list and an unordered list nested inside there, and then we have to go all the way down to the end list item, which is this list item here, which is the drop down menu, and hit delete. And that's going to get rid of all the junk we don't want. Okay, so we got rid of the drop down menu on the left, we got rid of the search box, we got rid of the link on the right, and now we're getting rid of the drop down menu on the right. And so what that does is it cleans up our menu so that we just have a couple links over there on the left. Now what we can do is we can rename those links whatever we want. We just have to find the code here in our source code that says link and rename it to whatever we want. We can copy and paste that same code in over 4 or 5 times to give us the links for our website, right? So here we are, we got rid of all that junk, so we can hit our delete key a couple times to get rid of this extra space, and then we can scroll up and copy and paste those link tags in about three more times so that we have links to our other web pages. Now we're getting the spinning wheel of death again here, which I guess I'll stop apologizing for because it's just the way of life here in Macintosh land. Sometimes we'll go ahead and delete some of this extra space here. Oops, be careful of that. Don't delete any tags that you need because that'll screw you up. Okay, so now we go up here and we see that here's the link tag. The one above that is what's called the active link, and that's whatever page you're currently on. You would put that tag there and it would light up, you know, behind that particular page. So right here, let's go ahead and take this word link. Let's double click on it and change that to home. Then the next button we could change to about. You can make these really whatever you want. But then what we can do is we can highlight this whole list item, this whole line with the about in it. Click at the end of that line, hit enter, and maybe paste it in, hit enter, paste it in, hit enter. So we've done it about 4 times there. So then we can, you know, put in some more buttons, services, you know, products, whatever you want to put in here that you think will make it will be appropriate for a real web page, right? Okay, so we've got those items in there now. All right, so there's our navigation bar. It's looking pretty good. I mean, obviously there's a lot of custom code you could do to make this even more attractive, and we'll talk about that a little later on in the semester. But let's just get sort of a working website here. Okay, so we've got that. Now we could talk about what we might want to do is sort of a background color for this section, and the way we could do that is we could go back up here to the top. You remember when we made the header, we created this custom style called my header. Well, we could create a custom style called my nav bar and put like a red color back there behind these buttons, right? So what we'll do is, and it doesn't matter if you create, you know, if you actually create the style first, like we did in the case of my header. If we go over here to bootstrap.css, we actually created the my header style first, and then we came over here and we said, okay, go ahead and call my header. But you can do it the reverse way too, is you can just start typing the name of a style you're going to make. So we'll go down here into this div class call large 12, the second one, and we'll click at the end of the 12, hit our space bar, and we'll call this my nav bar. This is the style we're going to make, and then we can go create the style on our CSS page. So it's perfectly legit to go ahead and copy existing styles and then modify them. So I'm going to copy the my header style and paste it in underneath that, and then I'm going to change the name of it to my nav bar, which is what I called the style over on the source code page. Then I'm going to delete out the hexadecimal number and put my cursor right after the colon, hit the space bar, double click on color, and now I'm just going to choose a red color and hit enter. It'll drop that hexadecimal color in there, and now if I just do file save all and then either click in here or hit the refresh button, you'll see that now there's like a red background for the actual navigation bar back there. Nav bar, you can see the red back there, the red background that we put for the nav bar. But you see that this this row here that has the list items in it actually has a yellow background. And the reason for that is because when we inserted the nav bar, there's a lot of complex components in there. One of the components it inserted was container fluid. And so it like made a little mini container inside the navigation bar. If you remember, that is the style that we used up here, container fluid, and we gave it a yellow background so we'd be able to see it. So if we go in and we get rid of that yellow background for the container fluid, then we can probably get rid of the yellow background here. So we'll go back up to source code. We'll highlight container fluid and we'll control click on it, and then go to code container fluid. That will take us down into the area where the container fluid is. And we'll go ahead and we'll get rid of this background color here. So we'll just delete that. And now as you see, it got rid of the yellow color, right? See that while we got rid of the yellow color, we now have this gray color back here for the background of that. So what you can do is you can come down here and inside your source code, highlight the words navbar and navbar default. You get these little labels appear here. Hold down your control key on a Mac and click on navbar default and click go to code. And it will take you to the navbar default section code in the Bootstrap CSS file. You can see that there's a color back here for the background, and if I just like highlight this color and temporarily cut it out using my Command X command, you see that the color goes away. So that's what's actually creating the background color for the nav bar. So you have several options here. You could give it a completely different color so it's easy to spot. Double click on this color and I'll pick I'll pick some purpley color and hit enter, and then click up here to see what happens. And there you see purple was probably a pretty horrible choice. Okay, so once again we'll delete that, go right after the cursor here. We could also leave it blank and just use that red color back there. But let's go ahead and put the cursor right after the colon, hit the space bar, double click here, and let's try and get, I don't know, maybe a light red or something. Super light red so we can see that text back there. Let's hit enter. See what happens. Okay, so there it is, possibly the ugliest salmon color ever created. Okay. But there it is. There's your background color. Notice that there's a border color here which goes all the way around. And this is the stylization you can mess with, at your own leisure. But we'll go ahead and leave that for now. Well, actually, I can't leave it. It's just such a horrible color. I got to do something about it. So hold on. Work with me here for a second. I do want to get a color in there. You know what I think I want to do is I think I'm going to go figure out what the original red color was. That's in the back of my navbar and just put that in there as well. So I'll scroll up here to the top, find the my navbar color, copy that. Okay, now I'll go back to here, click on my navigation bar here, and then go back to my source code, split the page and go to source code. Okay, so now I want to find where it says navbar default and highlight that. I want to command click on the Mac on that navbar default. I'm sorry, control click on it. Go to code. So for my background color, I'm just going to paste in this same red color that was back there that we made for the row itself is a red color, and now this is the same red color for the navigation bar. Now if you don't want there to be a border color around it at all, you could get rid of this color right here, and then that goes away, and then you don't have a border color like that. but let's leave it in just because it's easy to spot. Now I'm also going to copy this so I can use it to make some lines on the sides of the buttons here, right? So right now you see how the buttons are all right next to each other, but there's no lines between them. So I'm going to use this border color to put lines between them. So let's go back to the source code, and we'll find where the navigation items start. So we'll scroll down a little bit, and sure enough, we see that these are list items and that they have they're inside of the nav class nav bar, right? So let's go ahead and highlight one of these list items. Let's see if we are able to control click on here. Let's see if we can control click on the list item itself. Oops, I don't know what it did there, but that was kind of creepy, scary. I want to see if it will let me select just a list item. Come on, guys, work with me here. Well, selecting the code in there, but not the list items themselves. Default nav bar, class ID. Okay, so maybe I can highlight the whole list item like this, and we'll see what I'm going to get. What am I going to get? I'm going to get the big nada, the big nothing. So basically what I'm trying to do is just figure out a way to add some, I guess I could add a class to these list items, and then that would allow me to put in the lines that I want to put in. So how about we'll click this little plus symbol here to add a class or an ID, and let's just call this menu buttons or something like that, and hit enter. Okay, so it says class equals menu button, right? And so the source is Bootstrap CSS, select a media query, and these media queries are what allow you to change this as it hits the different sizes of browsers for different devices. And you can see that there's like a scary big amount of those. So let's just start with this big one here, which is the min width 1200, which we know is for the big big websites, right? Okay, so we got menu buttons. So let's now control click. Let's see, it says, okay, so we got that selected. So hopefully if we hit enter, that will go away. And it did go away, so that's good. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to create a menu button style, right? So what we'll do is we'll go over to our Bootstrap CSS. We'll come up here to the top where we're putting in our styles. We'll put in a new one down here. We'll call this dot menu dash buttons. Put in some curly braces, and we'll start with what's called a border. So we'll say border left, 1 pixel solid, and then we'll give it that same color as the border that's around the entire menu. Now let's see. See if that worked at all. Okay, it did not, so I have to play with this a little bit so we can get it to work. Okay, so after a little fooling around here, I can see that I've got my menu buttons to actually work, showing the border on the right hand side here that I wanted. And so what I did was I typed in border right, 1 pixel solid, and then the gray color that I selected from the area that's around the existing nav bar, and you can see that this line showed up. Now actually it doesn't matter if you guys can get that to work or not, because I actually thought of a better way to do this than this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and delete this menu button style, go back to my source code, and I'm going to get rid of this class menu buttons because I thought of a better way to do it. The better way to do it is, instead of applying it to just one list item here, which is this about list item that I was experimenting with, how about we apply it to all of them at once? So we can do that by applying it using this navbar style here. So if we click over here inside of our navigation bar, and then we come down here to where it says UL class, and we select navbar. Then that shows up over here in the label on the top of the screen. Hold down our control bar and click on navbar-nav, and then choose go to code and go to the top option there. What you'll see is that there's a style down here called .navbar-nav and then list item and then A. And what that means is if you're inside the navigation bar and you're a list item, which each of these is, and you're a link, which each of these is going to be when it links to a page, then go ahead and apply these different things to it. So this is where we can actually put in the border on to draw the line on the right side. So if you want to draw a line, it's referred to as a border. So what we'll do is we'll write the word border and then colon, and then you have to define three things with a border. How thick it is, it'll be 1 pixel, whether it's a solid line or a dashed line, so we'll say solid, and then what color you want that to be. And so what we'll do is I'll just paste in that color from before, which is the color of this gray color, which is surrounding the whole nav bar. And I'll actually make this border dash right, which means it's a line. A border is a line which is going to appear on the right side. You can say border, you could say just the border command, and that would put a border around everything. Or you could say border top, border right, border bottom, border left, and just put one line on any of those four sides, right? So by doing border right and applying it to every list item that's a link inside the nav bar, now I've got all these lines on the right side of everything. Now we've got this little padding down here, which is making this get small like that. We see the padding bottom. Let's see what happens if we change that to 0. Okay, that certainly doesn't help. That actually hurts us a little bit. We've got the line height of 20. What if we take that down a little bit? That's what moves the line up. Well, that's not helping either. So take that back to 20. Let's go ahead and save this and preview it in the browser just to make sure that we're not screwing up, because sometimes what you see in here is not actually what you see when you look in the browser. So we'll look here. If we have some extra space, we'll see what we can do. Oh, see, we don't have any extra space. It's actually just perfect. So you can see that those will act as buttons for you, right? I mean, you could always ditch this red color back here that's the red for the background of the row, and this is the red for the background of the nav bar. So we could get rid of that if we want. And actually, it's probably not a bad idea because we don't need that extra stuff showing up. So let's go back into Dreamweaver. And of course, we made that style. I'm going to go ahead and scroll up to the top of my style sheet here. We made a style called My Nav Bar, and that was this background style here. And let's see what happens if we take that color out. Actually, hold on a second. I want to get rid of this test style here that I had done earlier. Okay, good. Yeah, so there's two things in there. One is the row itself, and one is the nav bar. So let's go back to our source code and try and identify where those two reds are. So, okay, so we've got the row itself, the section which is holding the nav bar is calling the My Nav Bar code, and that has a red background. So let's see what happens if we take this line out that's setting the red. Okay, sure enough, it gets rid of the red that's in the row and just has the red for the nav bar remaining. So let's save that. And you can see that some of web design, or perhaps a lot of web design, is trial and error. Some because you don't know how it will look, and some because you don't know how the code's going to react, right? So when we look at this, we can see, well, you know, that works okay. You know, we've got a red background for our navigation bar now, but because this navigation bar has built into it some space on the right and left, it's not going all the way across. So that's a little problematic for us, because I'm assuming we're not going to like the way that looks. Although now that I look at it, well, in some of the cases it was the same size as the header div there. You can see that it's taking that image and dragging it across until we get to very wide screens, and then it doesn't happen anymore. So It would probably be best if whatever color is back here goes all the way across. So let's undo that code change we just did, and let's go ahead and preview this again. And of course, it'll ask us if we want to save it before we preview it. And we'll say yes. So here, this is obviously it's an improvement in some ways, in that the red goes all the way across. Of course, the red goes below the navigation bar, so unless it's a real small site like this. So these are the kinds of issues you're going to deal with a responsive website. Is things change, they move around, and positions change, and you have to deal with that sort of thing. So we won't mess with the particulars of that right now. We'll just move on to whatever the next stage is. But these are some of the issues you're going to be dealing with when making your designs. Okay, and so obviously these could be darker colors here to start out with. The text and the background color could be darker, but we'll just go ahead and move on to the next step and talk in class about some of the particulars here. Next thing we want to do is we want to insert another row down here underneath the nav bar, and on the left hand side we want to put in a div which is only part of the width, maybe like a third of it. That's where the image is going to go, responsive image. And then over here on the other 2/3 we're going to go ahead and put the text content, and then we're going to repeat that 2 more rows and then put a footer, and we'll be done. Okay, so let's start. Go back to Dreamweaver here, go back to our source code. Once again, we'll go down to the final div of all of the divs and click on the end of the line before it and hit our enter key. So this is going to allow us to put this next div in. So we're going to go ahead and click insert. We're going to insert a grid row once again, and this one will also be one giant column that's going all the way across. Okay, so it inserted the row and it made the column one going all the way across. But now that we did that, we're going to go in here and customize this. So instead of large 12, remember I said I wanted this column on the left to be about a third of the way, and then the one on the right to be 2/3. So if you divide 12 by 3, you get 4. So what I'm going to do, instead of making these large columns, I'm going to make them medium-sized columns. So I'm going to change this to be MD-4. And this is going to be my little column on the left, which is going to get the image in it. And then I'm going to put another column over here, which is going to get the text in it. So I can now highlight this bit of code here, which is the beginning and end div tags, paste them in right next to that, and change this to 8. So there's going to be 8 columns worth of content on the right side, 4 on the left, and that's going to take up our whole 12 columns in the row. So once again, an image will go in here and text will go over here. So let's start with the image. So I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to insert a responsive image here. So it looks like my nav bar is kind of spaced out, so let me go ahead and save everything. Okay, so I'm right here. Oops, sorry, wrong one. I'm going to click on our insert button. We want to insert a responsive image. Okay, so it does that for us. And then we can do file save all. It'll clean up that code a little bit, and now it's just pointing to the responsive placeholder image that we have in there. So now once again we can open our properties window, window properties, and come down here to the properties, find this source image box and click on our file folder there. And that's going to open up a window into our images. And when we do that, we can choose the first Buddha image and replace the responsive placeholder image with our first Buddha image. And then we'll essentially do the same thing for 2 other rows here. So we'll just choose this first Buddha and we'll hit open. And so now we can see, if we pull this down a little bit, that that Buddha is appearing over on the left, and over on the right we have a content area that's ready for some of our text content, right? The first Buddha image in there over on the left. Now what we have to do is put the text content over on the right. Now for this particular text content, I could either go back to the original Photoshop file and look at that stuff, you know, what she'd written. But I actually have a another file here with the content on it, so I'm just going to cut and paste it, and you guys can copy that in your own time. So if I go down here to this, this is a demo that I had done before. I've actually typed the text in here, so let me go ahead and find where that is. So here it is, and I'm just going to copy that big block of text. So I'm going to copy that over here, and then I'll go in between my beginning and ending divs for the column MD8 and paste that in, and now that'll show up. Now you can go ahead and type this text in. Just remember that to put the About Divine Wellness Care on its own line and wrap it in these things called H3 tags. So begin H3 and end H3. H3 is a headline. There's 6 different headline sizes, H1 through H6. H1 is the largest and H6 is the smallest, and so basically you just keep changing the numbers until you get the size font that you want up there. So that's going to be the first one, right? And so let's go ahead and, you know, obviously you can pause the video and then just type all that stuff in there. Then we're going to save everything, and we're just going to take a look at it in the browser and see how it is functioning. Okay, so there it is, and we can grab the corner of it, and sure enough, everything is resizing well. And when you get down to the tablet size and to the phone size, you get one column, and then in the size of the browser, you get you know, the 2 columns here because it's very wide. And we talked about this in class, but the way to really make this headline logo work would be to have a background color that sort of gradiates in and blends with the background color of the header div, and then it would always look sort of normal. Okay, so we'll go ahead and drop in these other rows in the footer, and then we'll come back, and just to sort of finish this off, we'll mess with this menu a little bit and try and give you some options for how you can make changes up there. Okay, so now that I've made this row, I know I'm going to make 2 more rows just like it, so I can literally cut and paste this code 2 more times and then just swap out the images and swap out the text, and I'll be good with the content part of this. So I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver. I'm going to go ahead and locate where this row starts. So it's right here, this div class row. Now let me go ahead and grab this divider and bring it up so you can see all the code. So div class row starts there. Then we have our picture div, which begins here and ends here. Then we have our text div, which begins here and ends here. And, oh, I'm sorry, it begins here and ends here. And then we have this div here, which is the end of the row. Now, this is a nice feature that they added. If you click in any div here in the code, it shows you the beginning and the end tags for that. So if we go ahead and we highlight that whole row like this and copy it, then we can go to the end of that section, hit our return key a couple times, paste it in once, hit our return key again, paste it in again, and now if we were to look at this code, we would see that we've got the same thing 3 times. Okay, so now we can swap out the pictures and swap out the text. So what we'll do is we'll get it so we can see the second one in here. Come down here to this second row here. So I gotta see where I am in my code. And I'm getting a little bouncing beach ball of death, so we're just gonna have to be patient. But essentially what you want to do is figure out where you are here in your code. You've got 3 rows that all have identical content in them. So you got to go scroll up till you're at the very top of the 3 rows, and then that's obviously 1, you know, the first row, then go down to the next one, which is 2, and then you got to switch out your image, and then switch out the text, which is over here on the right. Now for the images, it's easy for me because I named them Buddha 1, 2, and 3. So if I click in here and I'm able to scroll, which is, you can see that yes, in fact, this is the first row here, and then this is the second row here. Well, so if I put my mouse over here, it actually shows me a little thumbnail of the picture. But I know that the second picture I called Buddha 2, so if I just change that to Buddha 2, then we can see, sure enough, the second image comes in there, right? And then the same is true with this third image. I call that Buddha 3, right? This is why it makes sense to, name things sequentially. It helps you out. So now I've got my 3 pictures there. I just need to put in the different text that's here. Once again, I've already typed this text up on a sample page that I did. So I'm going to go over here to the sample page, and I'm going to scroll down and get the second bunch of text, which is this stuff right here. And of course, you'll have to type this in yourself. But I'll go over here. I'll find the second block of text, and I'll just go ahead and highlight that block of text, including the H3 tags, because I've got new H3 tags here. So go ahead and highlight that block of text, paste in my new text. Okay, and I can click in here to refresh it. And oops, I pasted that in exactly the wrong place. So that kind of sucks. Okay, so what can you do if you make a mistake like that? Well, Command Z or Control Z on the PC, and that will fix your error. And in our case, it's pretty easy. All I have to do is go down here, select the one underneath that, and now paste that in. And so now I've got the first 2 there, and now I just need to go get the third block of content. And for this, I'm just cheating and putting in what Neha had at the very bottom of her page. So I'm going in there, and now I'm going down to the third block of content here, just pasting this in. Okay, so let's do File Save All and see how this is looking. You can preview it at any time just by going down here to the bottom right corner, clicking on your little globe icon, and then choosing a browser that you want to use to preview this in. So I'm just consistently using Chrome because it doesn't matter what browser you use as long as it's consistent. Although I don't recommend using Microsoft Internet Explorer because it's the worst browser ever made. Okay, let's see what this looks like. My favorites are Chrome and Firefox. There's nothing really wrong with Safari. I just don't use it as much as I should. And Microsoft Internet Explorer has improved, but I'm not a big PC guy, and I kind of got burned using their earlier versions of their browser, which I still think is kind of wonky, so I'm not a big fan. Okay, so here we can see that we've got our 3 sections, and everything's resizing, and everybody's happy, right? Now we don't have a background color back there because once again we were doing the container fluid. We had that be yellow, and that was for the container itself, but that also, there's a container fluid back here that was turning yellow as well. So what can you do if you want to put color in here? Well, you could put color in the rows themselves if you want, and we could see how that would work out. So let's just go back here, and for example, we'll take this row right here, this bottom row, which has the free your mind, body, and spirit, and let's create a new class. We'll just create a class that we call, we'll put a space in here, and we'll call it content background. Okay, once again, remember that you can make a class at any time. You can name it whatever you want, and then you can go make the style that that links up to that, or you can make the style first and then call it here from the HTML page. So now we're going to go over to our Bootstrap CSS. We're going to come down here, and we're going to make a class dot content background, and we're simply going to Once again, I'm going to be lazy and say that it's just background color is yellow, because I don't feel like looking up the hexadecimal code for that. Okay, so now what we want to do is do File, Save All. Okay, we want to come back here and look at our source code here. Now let's see. Okay, so we said that this div class is a row and that the style should be content background, but we're not seeing any change in the color here. So let's make sure that we did everything right. Dot content dash background. Now, did I put a dash in the other? Yes, I did. So something's not happening there. So let's see what happens. Just going to do a little experimenting here. It could work. I mean, this is the weird thing about web pages. Sometimes you have to actually check them in the browser, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. See, that one's actually working. See, but it wasn't showing up in Dreamweaver, so that's what's so annoying about it. So, but there it is, and you can see there's a yellow background through all that, going all the way across. So now, if we just apply that same class, content background, to those other two rows, we'll get yellow everywhere. So we'll go up here to this row, we'll hit a space after the word row, put in content background, we'll go up here to this row and do the same thing. Okay, now if I save everything and I preview it, once again we're not seeing it in here from some bizarre reason, but now we've got a middle section which is all yellow, which is, it's nice because we got some colors going on here, oranges and reds and yellows, sort of hot colors. And of course we tweak these colors to all fit together, but this is just sort of our initial layout. Okay, so our final div down here is going to be a footer div. So we're simply going to go, once again, before the last div. We're going to click right there. And you can see one thing here. I have this red number here, this 67 is red, and that's telling me there's an error somewhere. So somewhere on my page there's an error, like I accidentally deleted one of these tags or something like that, and Dreamweaver's aware of it and it's telling me, but it doesn't know exactly where it is, or it would show me. So I'll have to be aware of that and try and fix whatever it is when it comes up. But let's go down here to the bottom. Let's insert a footer. So we're going to go ahead and insert a grid row. And we'll just make it one column wide. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead down here, click inside the container, and we're going to say, copyright 2016 Neha, or whatever we want to say, right? Now, there's a couple things we can do to improve this. If we looked at this, when it shows up, it's going to be over here on the left-hand side is where our content will be. So we want to actually center this. So what we'll do is we'll wrap this in a paragraph tag, which is the letter P, and then we'll tell it to align center. So P align equals quote center. And then we'll take this copyright, the word copyright, and we'll replace it with these letters, ampersand copy semicolon. That is, it's called a special character, and it will create the copyright symbol. So let's save all of that. And let's preview this and whatever we've been using. You can see there's the Neha there. And in fact, before we preview it, maybe we'll want to go into this row and give that the same content background style so that it gets the yellow color. And see, the advantage of using one style in many places like this is then if you want to change that color, you just go back to the style sheet where you have content background and change it to whatever color you want, and then it updates everywhere. Okay, so what we're going to do now is preview this in Chrome again. Okay, and there we have it. There's the web page. Now, you could additionally put a background color for the website itself. I'll go ahead and put that in just to show you where that goes. So on the CSS style sheet, if we went up here to the top and we created a style called body, and we gave it a background color. So we say background dash color, and let's see, I don't know what color is going to work here. I'm going to do something sort of obnoxious, and just so that we can see it show up. And of course it's not showing up, so that's always fun. We'll try one more thing and then we'll just give up on this, because sometimes they have their code so sort of thick and hidden that it's kind of hard to get the changes that you want. So what I've done is I've added exclamation point important inside of this piece of code here, and what that does usually is it trumps whatever existing code is in there. So you can see the green is there. Because remember, this is cascading style sheet, so you can create general styles like the body background is white, and that will cascade down through all the other styles and affect them, unless you do something like use the important word, and then that becomes the trumping style, and that's what shows up. Now, I did say I was going to go back and fix these, but I'm actually out of time because Google only lets me do about 45-minute videos before it will cut me off, and I won't be able to upload them. So once again, like I said earlier, we'll talk about more of the details of how to customize this navigation bar in class. But as you can see, we've gotten to the point where we're able to put content in here and format it, put in background colors, make a navigation bar, header, all that kind of stuff. Now granted, it's a far away from finished, but this can get you on the road to creating the working website, and then you can go in and tweak the CSS, tweak your imagery and things like that to do whatever you want. Now I noticed one thing that's screwed up here. This upcoming workshops doesn't have the H3 tags around it, so I'm going to change that before I go here. So let me go back to the source code, scroll down to upcoming workshops. Oh, I see. This is where I noticed right here. This is where my mistake is that I mentioned earlier. I spotted that I accidentally deleted the end tag for this this div here, and that's why my my H3 tag isn't working. So Dreamweaver sort of alerted me to that by virtue of the fact that it gave me that red 67 down at the bottom, line 67, saying, hey, there's an error on this page, you should look for it. And so now that I've fixed that, the error goes away, and of course that looks the way it should. Okay, so we're out of time, but please go ahead and review these videos as much as necessary, and start, you can build this sample website, and then go ahead and cut up your images in Photoshop, drop them into an images folder inside a folder in your documents folder or on your desktop. Open up Dreamweaver, create a new site, and point it to that folder, and then just go through this process that we did of creating a Bootstrap template and putting all your content in. Okay, thank you very much.